Where to start? Actually, probably best to start to let everybody know that when I was young, like 9 or so, I totally turned away from God. That was it. I wasn't going to have anything to do with Him. Just a series of circumstances in my life. And so when I joined the Navy, I was in a search. Over the years, I had tried Buddhism and just every other ism there is out there. Ism or is not. And so when I got involved in Vietnam, my first two tours in Vietnam were on ships off the coast. And when you're out off the coast, there's not a whole lot happening that you see, that you witness going on. And so it's not a giant level of impact. Yeah, you're bored to death because you're sitting out there and you're chasing around a carrier and whatever. My third tour, I didn't want to get bored anymore, so I volunteered for a program that they had going at that point called the in-country swap. Little did I know that what it was going to end up doing to me was putting me on a riverboat with the 53rd Riverines as the gunner on a twin mount 50 caliber on a PBR. That was not what I intended, but that's where I ended up. So you have to understand the PBRs from the base that I worked out of. We had 3 primary duties in life. One was to patrol the upper rivers to find any sign of Viet Cong crossing those rivers heading south. Number 2 was to take any units that required transport upriver to be left off on the base. You know, you had patrols going out, individual, what they called hunters going out, and so we'd take them upriver and we'd drop them off. Our third duty, which was really the most hazardous, was in the event a patrol was not able to get picked up by chopper because the ground fire was too heavy. There was too much what they call a hot LZ going on. They would start to migrate towards the nearest river and we'd get a call. And so we would meet them and put cover fire out for them and bring them on board as best we could and then get the heck out of Dodge. As you can imagine, that puts you right in the thick of things. In fact, my first firefight is where I earned my nickname Heater. I had never used a 50 caliber except for a little bit of practice shooting off the edge of the boat when there wasn't anything going on. And here we are, you've got live rounds coming at you, you hear them coming and pinging off of things all over the place, and people are dying. And you suddenly realize you could be one of those. And the next thing I knew, I grabbed hold of those handles and those triggers and I wasn't going to let go. While the lieutenant, the boat commander, reached up and smacked me in the back of the head, kind of like, you know, NCIS and what's his name. And I turned around and looked at him, he says, "Short burst," you know, yelling it as loud as he can. And so that was my first reaction, was to freeze up and just, you know, you're trying to stay alive. You saw a lot of bodies. The second time we went in to pull out a unit, they had come to the bank. There was 10 of them trying to get out. 2 of them were dead, the others were carrying them, and trying to pull them up into the boat. The bosun's mate, the lieutenant, the engineer were all 3 trying to help them get on board. And I'm up there just laying fire anywhere that I see anything coming from. When we finally got back to the base and we got everybody off, then we had to clean the boat up. And you're wiping out blood from everywhere. It's seeped into everything, into your shoes, your clothes, everything. And it's scary to think of it. I mean, I got done with that and I went back to where I was, where my quarters were, and I just literally cried for the next 10 hours. Didn't even sleep that night. I did discover how important that flak jacket was on me in particular, because as you can imagine, with the twin 50s, I was target. I had this big T on me, okay? And so I was the target. And when I went to take it off after we got finished, I went to hang it up, and there was a gouge that went from the left top of the left shoulder across the back and would have been right. So if I hadn't had it on, quite literally, I'd be dead. I had no idea why I survived anything I went and saw in there. But what you do is you bottle it up, because you can't afford emotions when you're out in the middle of a firefight. You just simply can't do it. And you find it's easier to just to bottle it up than try and deal with it. There's nobody else that wants to deal with it either, because they've been bottling it up and drinking it down anyway. So you get into drinking, you do a lot of drinking. What you don't realize in doing that is it's going to come back. At some point in your life, it will come back. There will be something, a smell, a sound, an event. Something will trigger, and it will come back. Anyway, I got out of Vietnam with a rather bummed up knee. They sent me to Triple Army Medical Center, where they rebuilt it for me. And my first wife and I were eating at a restaurant, and there was a truck that apparently went by and backfired, because next thing I know, I'm looking out from underneath the table, along with 4 other guys, all of us in the same condition, where it was just a natural reaction. A bomb goes off near you, you head for dirt. That's what you do. So that was my first encounter, if you will, with unwanted reactions outside of the field of the theater of war. And there were more. I mean, I had withdrawn to the point where I doubt very seriously if I showed much affection to anybody. I didn't make friends. In fact, I didn't realize until a couple of months ago that I have not had a close male friend in 30 plus years. Just hasn't happened. And you don't do it because you know why you're in there and you're going through these battles, that somebody you know is going to die. And when they do, and you know them closely, it hurts a lot. I've seen a few guys that just really didn't recover from it. So you learn to put that away too. You don't make friends, so you make acquaintances. You make guys that you fight with, but you don't make close friends. Okay? That's another thing that comes back to bite you. And over the years, it has done that in little bits and pieces. Recently, in the last several months, my wife Julie finally talked me into going over to the VA and talking to them about PTSD. You'd be amazed at how hard it is to get yourself up and go, because you know what's going to happen. You know what they're going to want to hear. They're going to know what they're going to want to talk about. So I went. And really, the PTSD treatment that they take you through, there's a psychologist involved. He's the one you talk to most of the time. And then there's a psychiatrist that asks you about things like depression and sleep and that sort of thing, because he's the only one that can actually give you a prescription for any kind of med that you need for depression or whatever. And so I've been doing that for a while now. Well, the retreat gave me an aspect of my own healing that I hadn't really addressed, and that was the spiritual side. There were a lot of guys there and a lady that every one of us were showing symptoms of PTSD. It was universal. It wasn't just one or the other, but everyone. When we opened up the conference, we opened up with prayer. We opened up with introductions. We just started getting used to each other, getting at ease. And honestly, now that I can look back at it, God was there at that point. He was there then. But it was like he was just tapping on the door, okay? He wasn't really knocking hard. He was tapping. Let's see if anybody was listening. By the end of the second day, I think everybody had heard him knock and had just gone to him and cried about it. And that alone is a relief. In fact, when I went back to see the psychiatrist after that, because I had an appointment that Friday, I told him, I said, you know, they're addressing something with this that you've never spoken of. And that's one spirit, God, what one believes, a faith. And he says, well, I know that because we're not allowed to. He said, if I had my choice, I would, but I can't. So this is something that's needed. It's seriously needed. There's a whole component of yourself that is wrapped up in God, particularly once you've accepted him, because he does come to dwell within you. And because of that, he's going to keep trying to fill you up, and you're going to have to start opening those little black cubby holes where you've got things hiding and getting rid of it so that he can truly fill you up. And so I'm really looking forward to working with the others and doing this again and again and growing the retreats, because I know for myself it opened up my eyes to an aspect of my healing that I wasn't considering. And I think that's true of the others as well. We had a couple there, a couple of the people there that really thought they had no problem. And they discovered otherwise. You know, they thought they'd addressed it all, and they hadn't. And so there wasn't a dry eye in the place. There really wasn't. It was a kind of experience that you actually, if you've been pulled back somewhat for a while, you get pulled back in, because you actually do heal some. And as you heal, the Spirit fills you more. And as the Spirit fills you more, you heal. It's a handshake thing. So you really have to do it. You really, and I would strongly recommend for anybody else that I ever meet that has been in or near or around combat, do this. Do this retreat, because you're going to find, even if you've been through all of the psychology work that there is in existence, this is a part that will be addressed that they can't. And it will really help healing.